Wow, it's amazing. We've spent 4 days together and now we're already coming to the end. But before, we have so much to discuss because there was a huge variety on content, on speakers, on experts. And now I would like to recap that with my lovely partner who I spent 4 days together. His name is Michael Pretorius and he's already next to me. Hi, Michael.
Coming from backstage from the studio and the editing room and now back here in the studio. I think it's comfy and cozy. We should stay here for a while. Yeah?
Yes, and we have so much more content to cover.
Yeah, so after 4 days, I think we can continue this show for till the end of the year. So we had all the experts here. I think this was a really cool B2B perspective on the IAA mobility with all the CEOs, with cool inspirational people sharing their visions of the future of mobility and future concepts. I really liked it.
And we really had a huge variety on topics, I must admit. So many different talks about air mobility, about bikes, about everything really happening here, and also answering questions that are addressed to our society. How do we as a society want to continue to live?
Yeah, living and the way we move from A to B is very closely related. So every time, every day, we take some vehicle or we walk or we use the public transport. And once it started as a car trade fair show, the IAA, the Internationale Automobilausstellung, as it was called. So and in the meantime, it's not only about cars. Yes, you will see cars and we still see cars outside here in the Messe trade fair show at the Messegelände München. But there's also the inner city of Munich, and here we see fancy concepts about future dashboards. Everything is connected. The dashboard looks more like a video game console or like a science fiction scenario, and it's really fancy and beautiful to see all that. The screens are getting bigger and bigger, and the cars are really fancy out there. But it's not only about cars anymore. So what we see here as well is the same for other devices and for other vehicles. For instance, bikes.
Yes, bikes. And all the bikes are more and more connected to each other. And here we can see now a very dirty mountain bike.
Yeah, but you can see the motor here, the engine for the electricity.
Yeah, we talked about that, how important it is also for commuters to have electric bikes so that you can have far distances, and that we also need other bike lanes in our cities, like, for example, in Amsterdam or in Copenhagen.
Yeah, there was a big discussion here at the IAA Mobility about the e-bike culture. So during the last years, we talked about the reach, the range of an e-bike. Can you drive like 50 kilometers without charging the battery? Or can you maybe drive like 100 kilometers without charging the battery? Is it for elderly people where you have a smooth step into the bike? Or is this, how are the brakes? So these were the discussions. But in this year, we had a total different discussion. It was about an e-bike culture. So for instance, for cargo bikes, will cargo bikes be a game changer for city centers? And when they are a game changer, do we need bigger bike lanes? Do we less parking spots? What about what will the cargo bike replace? Will it replace smaller cars, or will there in future cargo bikes and small cars? And Clemens Baumgartner from the city of Munich said, okay, if the cargo bike is the replacement of the car to bring your children to the school, then it's not the right idea. We need different concepts. We need different approaches for this. There's a big discussion about that. And what I really liked was the approach of putting the digitalization also in the bike. So what will be a connected scenario where we not only have our dashboard and our smartphone connected to the bike, where we see, okay, how much will the battery last, but also a connected world where everything is connected. The bicycle with a truck, with a train, with a car, also for safety reasons.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you see that someone is approaching you.
And I'm really looking forward for that to happen, because there are so many accidents also ending by death, which is really horrible, and we shouldn't have that when in times where everything is connected. One important thing that I really like to mention about the bike culture, it's not about the weather. So the weather couldn't be an excuse anymore, because in Copenhagen and Amsterdam it works as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and here we see the next trend, e-mobility. So we see a complete change in the way how we use our cars, and it's about the capacity of the batteries. It's about the charging infrastructure. The discussion is, okay, will there be one wall mount system for different manufacturers? Do we have the perfect charging infrastructure in one country or all over Europe. So the discussion is really big. And then next question is e-mobility in terms of electric cars the next thing, or do we step one step further? Yeah, that's also a question.
But also here it's really important to also see the development of cities and also for rural areas when there are households. How do they get the electricity? When you're living in a house with many different parties, do you also have like a place where you can recharge your car? So this also needs to be in place and needs to be considered when planning a city.
Yeah, and the rural areas were a big discussion here as well, because as we just mentioned these days, the cities where we live in Europe, they were built for horses and carts. But turning these cities into smart cities is really difficult. And if you see this for rural areas, it's even more difficult. So how can transportation look like in the future for rural areas where people are at the moment they rely on cars? Yeah? So there's no alternative right now.
And especially for elderly people, I mean, they also need to be enabled to use more mobility services very easily so that it becomes also for them accessible.
Yeah, yeah. So everything is connected and the innovation is a really joy. That's what Hildegard Müller said in her opening speech when she opened the IAA Mobility. And I think we could have a look at this video again.
The IAA Mobility is a signal of change, a signal that will glow way beyond Munich in the year 2021. IAA Mobility shows the innovation force of the automotive industry. We could already see impressive world premieres on the press conferences, but it also stands for the joy of innovation in terms of other mobility areas, for the speed of startups, and for the basic research done by universities. Citizens are not just focused on one means of transport. They are open for various means of transportation. But they want offers that work for them. They want solutions that leave them flexible, independent, efficient, and climate neutral. Every dialogue must look at the life realities and needs of people in urban and rural areas. Some of them really need the car. Others, especially in large cities, might not need it much or not at all. Autonomous driving will lead mobility into more security, more safety, more service, and more comfort. And we will make this revolution happen. We're discussing about Hyperloop, flying taxis, and about how innovation can turn into products.
But it was not only Hildegard Müller who was here for the opening ceremony. We also had a very special guest, and we were all happy that you could make it, because for over 16 years she was the Chancellor of Germany, and Angela Merkel was here for the opening ceremony. And we should also have a look what she said about the future of mobility.
IAA Mobility means you want to present mobility of the future in a holistic way. And to further strengthen e-mobility, we need a sufficient charging infrastructure. You consistently point this out. And we need to get better. And this is also true for the whole of Europe, because the Germans are not only mobile here in Germany. The transport sector can contribute a lot to climate neutrality. Open-mindedness as regards the technologies applied. We must not be premature. We must not be biased in focusing only on specific technologies. We ought to tap the full potential of all promising innovations. And here, electromobility will be a crucial pillar, obviously, of climate-neutral mobility, but also other options, such as hydrogen, synthetic fuels, could be alleviating the burden on the climate. And this is particularly true for heavy transport, for air travel, and for shipping.
Yeah, and some of these promising innovations we could see and experience here at the IAA Mobility. One, for instance, are microcars, and I had the honor to meet the brothers Merlin and Oliver Oberter, who invented the Microlino. It's a very fancy car. It reminds a little bit about the bubble cars from the 50s, but they had it as a concept here. They will start production at the end of the year, and what they bring into the market is the idea of having a very small car with 2 seats, seats, and the car is less than 500 kilograms in weight, and should have a reach for cities. So the most interesting on this car, from what I saw today, was it can be charged with a normal socket. So you don't need a special wall mount for this. You just plug it in where you normally charge your cell phone or your whatever, and it works. And I really like the concept. There are many manufacturers here at the fairground who showcase different approaches and similar approaches to this. And I think the joy here is to see so many different approaches of really promising innovations that could help us to meet new climate goals and maybe to get the problem solved.
And what I really want to highlight is that there won't be any horrible future scenarios that we often see in some Hollywood movies. Everyone we talked here was saying, yeah, there is a change, and we also need, of course, the change, but it enables us for more mobility, and it will give all people access on the world to mobility, which is also a highly important topic, that we're not only taking all the privileged people in the cities into account, but also people living in rural areas or maybe in even poorer countries.
I think especially the summit here at the IAA Mobility, so the conference, is a big platform where you could hear different voices with different opinions pointing in the same and addressing the same problems. And I think this is really important, to have the discussion with the right people, with the right manufacturers, but also with startups, with opinion leaders who are trying to share their opinions to solve the same problem.
So we will face a big change, but I think it's also a very exciting change that is going to happen in the air, on the water, on the streets, in the undergrounds, wherever.
Okay.
So, we are really at the end now, and we hope that you really enjoyed the last 4 days with us. The IAA Mobility 2021 is not over yet. We are finished here with live streaming and showing you all the highlights that happened during the week on the conference. But you can, of course, also visit Munich downtown over the weekend. It's for free. You should really get into the discussions, see what's happening there, and see all the different models and experience everything that is displayed there. So now, Michael, I'm really, really sorry and sad at the same time.
It's okay. Perfect.
But we need to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.